Hi all. Right, back with some more D-Day at Saipan. This will be part 4 of what yet's to be decided if we're going for the full campaign or just the intro scenario. Is it D-Day it's called, the intro scenario? I forget. Yeah, I think I've talked about what we might do with that. It's just in case things go terribly wrong and I don't know, I've knocked something over here. In case things go terribly wrong with the rules, we have struggled a little bit with grasping some things, but we'll push on for now. I've got some answers from the designer Joe Youst. So he's not answered the big list of questions Martin had yet, but it was a big list of questions, so it might be taking him a bit of time to get through them. But hopefully that they can get cleared up as well. So just go through the comments I've had regarding the last part, which was part 3. Got a comment again from Michael. Now, Michael DePaul. I want to say it was Michael from Ohio. I hope I've got that right, Michael. I seem to remember you saying, because there's a few Michaels that comment on my videos. I've gathered a few Michaels, and I'm pretty sure this Michael had mentioned where he was from. I meant to look it up before I started to record there, Michael, so we'll take a chance. I won't edit it out, I'll just apologise if I've got it wrong. Okay, so anyway, he said hi again Grant, I looked at US order battle for Saipan on Wikipedia. A129, now this is, A129, and it was a confusion of these guys here. They've got a different symbol. What would that be called? I know there's a name for that. Their emblem, whatever it is, it's probably on their uniform somewhere, isn't it? Symbolising their whether it's battalion, regiment. I think they're called a battalion, but they're from a regiment. I think I'm grasping it now as I was thinking about it today, just got up this morning and I was thinking about it a bit and I thought, can I remember them? A Company, 1st Battalion, 29th Regiment of the something division. Now this one is not, whereas this, something to look at, Grant. They're all HQs on the top. These are all from the 4th Marine Division, and these are from the 2nd Marine Division. Now, I might just be able to tell you what these are from in a second. Anyway, he says A129, so it's A Company, 1st Battalion, 29th Marine Regiment. And I think it was just the way Martin had worded it first was he was saying that they were the 29th Battalion. However, then Martin, he did finish his comment with, I believe they were the 1st Battalion of the 29th Regiment, and that's what kind of threw me a bit. Well, I hadn't fully read that bit yet, I had to apologise about that. But so it's good, because I don't want throwing about. I mean, I know these are the 29th Regiment. He said the Red Shield equals 5th Amphibious Corps, so that's what they're from, the 5th Amphibious Corps, apparently. I think maybe Joe makes a comment on this as well, so we'll see what he says. To be honest, his comments on my YouTube channel are pretty brief and there's no timestamps, and I'm not really sure about certain bits that he's talking about, but however, the Red Shield equals 5th Amphibious Corps, which was in charge of the operation on Saipan. I don't know what division the 29th came from, but they were the sole regiment of their division attached to 5th Amphibious Corps. So there we go. So hopefully that clears it up. And we'll see what Joe says. He mentions something about them as well. So thanks for that, Michael. And yeah, we'll carry on from that. Right, well, there's just a list of 6 or 7 comments on my video. This is on part 3 from Joe. Like I say, no timestamps to them, so they're just kind of as he's been looking at it, I suppose. He says, note that when the rule was written, battalion HQs were considered company units also, hence the confusion. So it must have been me talking about, I think it was me talking, well, let's get them off the map, hang on. I've just brought one back that's not on board yet. So that is a battalion HQ there. The battalion HQ from the 3rd Battalion of the 2nd Regiment of the 1st Marine Division of the US Marine Corps. I think that's what it all comes down to. It all breaks down to that, I think. So it says, note that when the rules were written, battalion HQs were considered company units, also hence the confusion. So I think what he's commenting on there is my doubt about these guys drifting. He does. I do get an answer to that anyway. Or my doubt about these guys, are they HQ units, are they infantry units? To me it seems like they're a bit of both. But apparently the original rule was that these were regarded as companies along with, you know, the actual companies from, right, I know that's not the same, from the same battalion, but you know what I'm saying there. So okay, hold on then. Right, so I think his second comment is talking about these ones that we were unsure about. It is an attached battalion from the 5th Marine Division. So I think Michael had said the 5th, what was it he had said? 5th Amphibious Corps. So maybe that's the actual division anyway. So from the 5th Marine Division to the 2nd Marine Division. Yeah, so they were attached from the 5th to the 2nd. So they will come in, no doubt they'll be coming on this side beside the 2nd Division guys. I haven't looked at that yet, but that's not until turn 3. It is under the command of the 2nd US Marine Corps Division. Okay, right. So I think we've got that now. What was next? Okay, next bit was talking about tanks and LVTs, and I'm not quite sure it's all been cleared up for me yet. He says tanks and LVTs are all AFVs, and we've found out that AFVs is armoured fighting vehicles. And that armoured bit, the beginning, right, armoured fighting vehicles, tends to suggest that if these are all armoured fighting vehicles, then these are all armoured. Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if I popped that question or not, or if it's been talked about yet or not. We will find out as this goes on. If it is not, I might look for confirmation of that, because I'm not so sure these were armoured, were they? Well, okay. Well, anyway, it says tanks and LVTs are all AFVs, but tanks and LVTs have different properties in some cases. Okay. I think we found that with the land and these, where they could be broken. What was the word? We're going to get to that actually. How they can. I'm saying broken. What, they breakdowns or something like that. Something to do with that. But anyway, they have different things. So he's not mentioned at all an LVTA in that comment. It's LVTs and tanks. So that means these two are LVTs. Well, or are they? This is an LVTA, which is an LVT tank. So does that go here? Does that go there? It's not quite clear there. I think there's another couple of comments, so we'll see if that becomes clear. Anyway, that's what he said. So, okay. Right, his next comment says, to clarify, only the regimental HQs don't drift. That was what the rules should have said. Okay, so obviously there could be some errata to keep that clear for us, maybe. So yeah, whereas these are the 3 units that are marked with a star, sort of leader type units. Well, I still look at it as the leader symbol. I'm not quite sure if it calls it that in the rules, but that's how I kind of remember it as. And yeah, where Martin pointed out the heavy weapons units clearly would drift. Hadn't really thought about them. Now they're not marked HQ at all on them, obviously, but they do have the star, which suggests they would drift. So fair enough with that. which I'd forgot about. But my doubt was, do these guys drift? Because these are marked HQ. It does say in the rulebook HQs do not drift. But however, that's to clarify from Joe that it is only the regimental HQs that wouldn't drift. And I knew these guys wouldn't drift. I understood that. It was just the actual battalion HQs. I wasn't sure. Okay, I think now we're back to talking about these guys. So whether he's just going through the video and I'm blathering about bits, like I say, there's no timestamps to say where he's at. So that is A Company, 1st Battalion, 29th Marine Regiment. So that must be what he's talking about there. So yeah, we've kind of got that one cleared now. Good. Right, I was going to bring the tanks back out again here, but I won't. The next one says there are tanks and then there are LVTs. Right, I'm not finished yet, but that's twice he's made a comment there regarding LVTs and tanks. Okay, now maybe it's just me, maybe just I'm like in Grantos mode here. But in the book on page 6, showing the playing pieces, you've got a tank unit. Now you've got a landing vehicle tracked, which is an LVT. And then you've got a landing vehicle tank, which is an LVTA. So there is 3 different ones. Now, when he says there are tanks and there are LVTs, does that mean there are tank units and there are LVTs, an LVT and an LVTA? Again, I'm not sure. Because the landing vehicle tank could be classed as a tank. So, that's still not clear to me. That if LVTAs are classed as tanks, I guess. Okay, we'll move on because there is another couple of comments to. He's answered a couple of questions on BGG, so let's just see if maybe that clears it up. I get the feeling not, but anyway, to finish the comment, there are tanks and then there are LVTs. LVTs cannot aid infantry in infiltrating Japanese positions. Now, I had to think about that a bit, and then I was thinking, right, what does that mean? And then the word infiltrate, and I thought, right, hang on, that takes me back to infiltration, fire, and all that. So just let me have a look there. Now, I do recall, while reading the rules, under movement under fire and infiltration fire, that there was abilities of tanks to avoid the infiltration fire, and I think that's what he's talking about there. Now, we haven't got to that yet, but I think if you're stacked with a tank, you can avoid. I'm trying to find the bit here that discusses it, but well, have a closer look, Grant. 7.3.3a on page 14, titled Movement Under Fire and Leaving a Steady Field of Fire. A non-tank unit expends 1 extra movement point to leave a steady field of fire if unaccompanied by a tank unit. The player then blah blah blahs. And then 7.3.3b on the next page, movement under fire and leaving an intense fire field of fire. A non-tank unit must expend its total printed MP. It may not conduct another movement to leave an intense field of fire if unaccompanied by a tank unit. So clearly tank units help you here. And oh, there we go. 7.3.3d on the same page, page 15. Movement under fire and tank units. A tank unit or a unit accompanied by a tank may enter an attempt to leave an intense field of fire hex if that hex is not adjacent to a Japanese unit or position. Conduct the movement under fire check for this move in the same manner as above. If the unit is not disrupted or does not take a step loss, it may continue moving. An infantry unit must be accompanied by a tank to do this. So that's what his comment's referring to. Again, I still question, is an LVTA, which is called a landing vehicle tank, is that classed as a tank? Right, I understand it, the normal LVT is not, but is LVTA and a tank unit, are they both tanks? Are they both armoured? Well, the other part of that is an LVT armoured? Because it's an armoured fighting unit. So, an armoured fighting vehicle, sorry. Okay, so still not 100% clear on all that. Right, there's a couple more to go. Heavy weapons units can drift. It is the regimental HQs that don't drift. Okay, we've got that now. That's good. I think he actually replies to my BGG question about battalion HQs drifting and confirms that they can. And his final comment is, if you overstack, it becomes a concentrated target. Not good. Yeah, I finally realised that, but I only finally realised that because it's a change to the old rule, the old general rules of concentrated targets. I mean, I think throughout the games, the amount of steps has maybe changed to determine how many steps makes a concentrated target hex. However, I don't think there was ever a rule there that said if you had a concentrated target, the Japanese got an extra hit. Now, it could well have been in Iwo Jima, but we've not really, we've kind of left Iwo Jima sitting for the moment. So, okay, but that, he's saying it's not good, and I realised that. Because it wouldn't be so bad, again, I've maybe harped on about this, because if you're in an intense field of fire, it doesn't really matter, but the bit that does matter is the fact that they're going to get an extra hit on you. Right, that was all his comments, so thanks for that, Joe. I'm sure there'll be other things coming up, so hopefully you can follow along. Okay, yeah, I had a couple of questions answered on BGG by Joe. First one was about the drift. Hi all, my understanding is that regimental HQs don't drift. However, our infantry battalion HQs affected by drift results. Martin had made a comment at first, for what it's worth, and while we wait for Joe, they do drift in D-Day at Iwo Jima, and I'm fairly sure they're supposed to in this game as well. Then again, heavy weapons units don't drift in this game, and they clearly do in this game. Yeah, okay. So he did come back, Joe, BN HQs, so battalion HQs do drift. Okay, so that's confirmed. But we did think we were right with that one. So the other one that got answered from a question by myself, there's a couple that that he answered Martin as well. But my one was Japanese hit priorities, and it was the doubt of when deciding the priority for the unit to take the hit within 6.3.3 hit limits of Japanese positions. Do we consider the three sort of options, which are, if there are two or more units within one priority, select the unit closer to the firing position, and then the second one would be select the unit with the most steps, and then the third one would be the player then chooses. However, after that, it's got an important and in red, when selecting units within a priority, always choose units that possess the same target symbol as the fire card first. And this situation came up in the first piece of Japanese fire when this green position fired, and we decided, although we weren't sure, that now I've disrupted both tanks to save that guy from the hit, didn't I? We decided that these three hexes were all in intense green fire, so these were three possible hexes. Now, when I first done it, I looked through the priorities, select the unit closer to the firing position. Well, clearly this one's 2 away, this one's 2 away, this one's 1 away. So there we go, we've got our stack of units. Then I was going through, if there are 2 or more units equidistant, that doesn't count. If there are 2 or more units in the number... Right, we don't need to carry on out step 2 and step 3. We've got step 1, however, we do need to decide what unit is in that... No, sorry, my bad. We do need to go into step 2. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead there. So it says, if there are 2 or more units equidistant from the firing position, select the unit with the most current steps. So we looked into the stack, and we've seen that obviously the company has got 4 steps, LVT and LVTA both had 2 steps. So we clearly were taking the hit on this. Now, we then found out we could disrupt 2 other units to stop that hit from happening, so that's what we'd done. And then I started thinking, however, when selecting units within a priority, always choose units that possess the same target symbol. Well, there is definitely, oh god, what was it? That's why you keep the card in the place. So it is a triangle. So there's clearly a triangle in this hex. Maybe not in this one. I don't think there was actually, was there? No, this was green, yeah. So it's diamond, diamond, circle in there. But you can see there's clearly a triangle in here. So should that be the priority over this being closer? We weren't so sure. So that's a question. Martin says it's a good question. He says, I think that if the important part should be considered first, it would have been easier to simply put it as priority 1, which is a good point. That leads me to believe it means something like units within the same target symbol as a fire card are chosen first in each tiebreaker. I said, yeah, fair point. Hopefully Joe can confirm this too. And he does, but not the way we maybe thought. So yes, the target symbol comes first. Although, again, it's a bit brief. So, well, maybe not. That is saying that the important part comes first. So how Martin replied to that, interesting. So 6.3.3 should say, if there are 2 or more units within one priority, and then we go 1, 2, he's basically put that important part as priority 1, which is select the unit that possesses the same target symbol as the fire card. Then, if there are 2 or more units within the same target symbol as the fire card, select the unit closest to the firing position. So, clearly, if we had a triangle in here and a triangle in there, we would clearly we would want to tiebreak between the 2 because they've both got a triangle, and this one would be closer, so that was the one that you would pick. So it does turn out we've got that wrong. So what I'm going to do there is change that, which means that disruption comes off, although it's going to go across there anyway. Now I must have been transporting that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Right, it's down there. It's transported, and we've got the tank. Well, actually, I remember put the tank on the. I remember putting the tank on the bottom or the top, or does it really matter, Grant? No, I think I was putting it on the top because then it doesn't show the. Did I flip that counter there? I never seen it, by the way. If it flipped, I know I nudged it a bit. You got to be careful with them. I think they were worse in the older games because these are good quality components, by the way. The counters are really good. Now I don't know if maybe I spoke about this already, but the first versions of the DD games, Omaha, Tarawa, and Peleliu, the components weren't so good. I got second hand Omaha Beats, so talked about that, and somebody clipped the counters rather poorly. But the original one I got was Tarawa, and some of these were off center a little bit and a bit shoddy. These are really good. Anyway, and you're getting mounted maps these days. But I don't know if you were to go and buy Tarawa and Omaha now, it comes with a mounted map, and the counters might well be this similar quality. Anyway, so this is going to be our target hex because that's a triangle. They're both diamonds, so obviously if that had been a triangle, we would have had to differentiate between the 2. This is the one that's going to take a hit. So I'll grab a step loss counter, chuck it over here. So that goes underneath, and then he is disrupted as well in that hex. So we've got that cleared up at least. I think sounds like Martin's point about it'd be better if it was written that as the first, because it's kind of a first priority, and it's like an important note, and it's down the bottom. And am I doing that right? No, Grant. Oh yeah, I'm. And this guy's okay. And he was getting transported, right? Okay. Right, that's fine. So, well, we've got it cleared up anyway. Right, so there was a couple more answers to questions that Martin had posted. One that was that was relevant to my playthrough. Certainly, it was a question not a question I thought about, but a question Martin had thought about, and I think he commented on the YouTube video about it. This other one, I was talking about it a little bit, but Martin put the question out there to Joe. It says 5.1, if the colour of the above target symbol matches a fire square in the beach landing box and the Japanese position capable of projecting fire into the box, is occupied by at least one non-disrupted Japanese unit. That's the rule, the quote in the rule. And his question is, how do you know if a Japanese position is capable of, and this is it, capable of projecting fire into the box? Is it simply the closest position? Take red 3 beach, for instance. That's what I've got lined up here. This is red 3 beach, where we were at, actually. It has a brown square, but which brown position is it that needs to have a non-disrupted Japanese unit? And he's saying it's got a brown square, it's got a brown fire into this hex, into this beach landing box, sorry. So which brown position fires? Because if you look there, and this was my confusion. In fact, did I talk about this one? I possibly did. It was possibly something that came up, because I thought the nearest brown, you've got a brown up there, you've got a brown here. None of them look like they're capable of firing into this beach landing box, but maybe this one because it's on the shoreline, I don't know, or maybe this one. I mean, where do they need to fire into? Do they need to fire into here, or... yeah, so... Well, here's Joe's answer. As far as I can see, I think that's what, AFA, yeah, as far as I can see, Red Beach 3 only has one brown position within 3 hexes. So this 3 hexes has come out. Now, I don't know if that's written in the rulebook anywhere. It might well be. I get the feeling possibly Joe's maybe, I don't know. It might well be. Maybe I shouldn't challenge that. But anyway, so he's mentioned 3 hexes. He's got in brackets, that was the criteria for determining if a beach was in range, pre-registered mortars, etc. Okay. So if it was within 3, right, and then it says if 2 were present, only one of them would need to be occupied with an undisrupted Japanese unit. Well, I think we get that. We get if there's 2 that are within range. I suppose Martin's wondering which one is within range, and I think this is probably one of the ones I was scratching my head at too. There's a couple that you think surely they can't fire into the beach and into the water. However, so. Yeah, he says additional Japanese units and positions would have no effect on this. So if they're more than 4 away. So Martin came back, okay, so it's position A12 that is the position that is capable of projecting fire into the box. Good to know. Is it this one then? Yeah, A12, because it's 1, 2, 3 away. So it needs to be 3 within 3 of that. So although they're getting, are they not getting hit while they're coming ashore? It must just be the requirement is from 3 hexes into a beach landing box that counts. Whether possibly the fire is once they reach, well, I don't know about that as well, because I don't know. Right, if they can reach here, then they can hit here, and that's why that brown square's there. Which you would think there's no brown. You could understand green, yellow, and blue, and red to some extent, but you can see red is 1, 2, 3. It's 3 away, and this is where the purple as well is 3 away. So, well, when we're looking, it's the 3 hex thing. But I suppose you would need to know there, because we weren't sure if this was the brown position that was firing or this one. And let's just say this brown position was disrupted. You need to know which one it is, because if it's this one that's firing into this beach, then if it's disrupted, there's no fire here. If it's this one, however, there we go. Right, okay. Right, last question. 30 minutes coming up, Grant. Good for you. Last one was 7.37 vehicle breaking down when landing. I hadn't thought about this. Martin had commented on my video about it, because I decided there was a couple of hexes. This one's a railroad, isn't it? And remember, I changed it. I think I changed that and thought, well, rather than have the chance of a tank breaking, an LBT or an LBTA breaking down, I chose to land them in this hex instead. So Martin's question was, am I correct in thinking that you also check for breakdown when landing into a beach hex? Joe comes back. Breakdown does not occur upon landing. Only when you start moving the LVT or tank do you check for breakdown. And only if you enter terrain marked with the breakdown symbol on the terrain effects chart. If you enter a hex along a road, you do not check for breakdown. Now he's just said road there. If you were moving along a railroad, would that be the same? Well, maybe not. Or I don't know, maybe yes. He's just mentioned road there though, but well, it says that yeah, they plus values. I don't know. No, that's +1. Oh, I don't know. Right, we'll get to that. Anyway, however, when landing, you don't need to check for breakdown. So I could have ignored that. To be honest, I got that. It was somebody's comment that said you need to watch out for checking for breakdown on landing. I hadn't thought about it because I didn't think there was any hexes that would affect breakdown, but then when I seen there was, I thought he must have been right with that and we do need to check. However, no big deal, we'll just leave that as is. Right, okay, that's all the stuff to talk about for now. Right, so back to the game. I was saying that's the last of the questions. There was that still big list of Martin's other questions that to be honest, I actually meant to go through and look at them to see if I can maybe apply some thought to them. I did go answer them originally, but I thought they were kind of too far in for me to sort of start. I probably should have a look now that I've been looking through the rules a bit more and see if I can come up with anything. It's unlikely if Martin's asking a question about these games. I maybe occasionally come up with something. Right, anyway. Sorry, Martin. Right. Back to the action. So we're on the US action phase. We conducted the attack, the Japanese fire phase. So all units within range of their undisrupted HQ may perform actions each game turn. That's nice the way that's written right there. It tells me right away that this is where this command comes into it. Now, we don't need to care because it states that, and this is what it stated at the beginning, at the scenario instructions, that between games turn 1 and 4, throughout this scenario, well, if we're playing this scenario, but certainly between games turns 1 and 4, all your units are in command. So we don't need to worry about being within range of an HQ. Now, come game turn 5, assuming we carry on, that's when you've got to start thinking about that, and that's when it's going to become a bit more complicated. So, in addition, the following units may also perform an action. I'm just looking at the sequence track here. Units stacked with a hero or inspired marker, well, we've no heroes yet. An HQ unit. Right, I mean it just says that, A and B unit. In addition, the following units may also perform actions. I think, right, okay, what that's meaning is outside of units that are in command, units start with a hero or inspire marker can perform an action, and an HQ unit can perform an action. It's not talking about free actions there, although if you're starting with a hero, yeah, it would be part of the free action thing, wouldn't it? Right, okay, and then the US player must conduct CC in each hex containing opposing units during an action phase. After all US actions are finished, Japanese artillery fire is conducted. This occurs on game turns 2 and 4, and then on every odd game turn thereafter. Well, it won't be happening in this turn. This is only game turn 1, so that's fine. Okay, so no more than 3 actions may be performed by each US division in play. 3 actions do not count. This is me reading Rule 7 now, page 13 it starts. So we get 3 actions on either side. Well, they kind of are on either side, but 3 actions with each division. I've not read anything about any kind of crossover. There doesn't seem to be a boundary, whereas some of the previous games had a boundary that if you crossed over, you became part of the other division rather than, and certain other things could happen. But So let's just have a quick look at the free actions. Now, we've got a couple of units that are disrupted, and normally I would jump right in at them and remove their disruption. Now, in my previous games, like I've said, I probably will do it here. There's a lot more counters and whatever, and I know I talked about the fact that they're, because of the way the game's set up, you know, the units would normally be like that, but I'm doing it that way. That looks the better way to do it. So if this unit has had an action at all this turn, I'm going to turn it like that, which is, yeah, it's going to look, I mean, if you look at it compared with everything else, you'll know that that's done something. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, and like I say, normally I would have just jumped in, removed disruption, and then turned the unit like that to say that that's its action over. However, within this game, again, not sure if it was in Iwo Jima or not. Disruption removals talked about in 7.6, but I don't think that's what we want, is it? Disrupted unit, a US unit with a disrupted marker, this is 7.6 on page 16, may not perform any action except removal of their disruption marker or a preservation move, and that's the reason why I'm not going to jump in and take it off, because it can do a preservation move. So we're going to look at that shortly to see what that entails, if it's worthy, the units have got disrupted, if it's worthy of doing that with them. Now, I'm just about to look at free actions here. Like I say, that is the only action that disrupted units can do. Well, remove their disruption marker or preservation move. But the other free action options I'm just about to look at, but just something to consider here. There's a lot more units trying to land here, and we've already noticed that we didn't think we had issues with overstacking at first. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to think there why we were having to move the units if they weren't overstacked, were they? Because the stacking is 2 infantry companies and 2 other units. So we were able to do that in a few X's, but then we realised that 11 steps was bad. That turned out into concentrated, and then when we found out the Japanese were going to get extra fire, that turned out even worse. But not only that, we don't want to have overstacked either, because overstack automatically disrupts the units overstacking. So you can see that we've got 8 engineer units to land this turn. Now these are 2 steps units, but they've all got to find a space to land in as well. You can see this one there, there's a whole hex of a space, which is fine. But some of the other big stacks up there, I think one of the ones is one that's got the step loss, I think, isn't it? But you can see this guy, okay, this guy, he's got a space to go in there, even he could probably go in there. However, come the next landing phase, and this is going to be, once we've had our US action phase, that's going to be it. Whatever spaces are left is going to be where we need to put this stack of units. So, yeah, that probably wasn't I think that's what I was considering when I placed them, because it was any red beach, and I noticed that there's a big space here, and also this is quite empty, and I think that was also my consideration here. Well, no, certain units had to be in green too, but again there's a space there, so we might not have any issues this turn. Looking down here, again this one's been stacked here, I think, with the fact that this is empty, so there should be space, and also this one's empty. So I think that was in my thinking about where I was going to deploy these. Whereas you can see, if I had an option of blue 2 or yellow 1, there's a bit more going on here. It might not be too bad, but remember these are 6 different, well actually the HQ doesn't count, does it? It doesn't count for stacking, the actual regimental HQ anyway. Doesn't count for stacking, so, but there is another 5 units that will count for stacking in each of these stacks. So yeah, so we need to consider that a little bit, and I'm considering it now because I'm thinking, do I want to move anybody out of there, possibly? It's going to be tricky to move because we're mainly adjacent to the sort of initial Japanese units that are waiting for us. So, and you don't get advance after combat. So even if we take the position out, we're still sitting in the same hex that we're in. Looking at, just from what I'm seeing there, it does look like we might be able to get away with it and not end up any overstacking. The fact we've got an empty hex for that one, an empty hex for that one, and an empty hex for these two. So I'll maybe not really bother myself with that. Although, like I say, I'm not really seeing much of an opportunity to do it. Well, there's an opportunity there. These guys here have nothing adjacent to them, and really they maybe want to move from here to here. However, I think that involves the movement under fire situation, because he's in intense red there, and he's moving into intense red. Well, he's not just in intense red, he's in intense red and intense blue there, and brown. So yeah, I think that would be a nasty move actually, because I think any one of the colours drawn could cause a hit. Okay, well, we'll need to watch for that as well. Right, let's look at, before we just kick off, about what possible free actions we have. So 7.1 free actions on page 14. A free action may consist of any of the actions listed in 7.0 unless stated otherwise below. Units in the following situations may conduct free actions. After all other actions have been taken, a disrupted unit may make a preservation move instead of recovering from disruption. Okay, so after all actions have been taken, we're allowed to do that. So we need to leave that to the end. Which, yeah, I hadn't thought about, but okay. A unit start with a hero inspired marker. Well, we've not got any of them. Regimental HQ units and infantry HQ units. Well, we don't have regimental HQ units yet. That's these guys here. We do have infantry HQ units. These are the ones that are stacked there. So they get a free move. And then units that are stacked with or adjacent to their regimental HQ unit at the start of the US action phase. Well, we've not got the regimental HQs on yet, so that one doesn't count. That's number 5 that does though. Infantry units that are stacked with an infantry HQ unit. That was a question I'd wanted to ask, wasn't it? Yeah, I knew there was another question that I wanted to ask just now, and we'd been talking about it, and Martin had mentioned it in a comment as well, that wasn't sure if, it just says infantry units that are stacked with an infantry HQ unit. So this infantry HQ unit is stacked with these infantry units, right? So it's going to give these two units a free move, but they're from the same regiment. Well, they're from the same battalion and regiment. Now it doesn't say anything in the rules, but if this was stacked with an infantry unit from a different battalion or a different regiment, would that still be able to give a free move? And we're not sure about that, although that sentence right there seems to say, yeah, well, hang on. Yeah, so when you go to 10.3 on page 23, infantry battalion, HQ units and command, I know I've read through this a couple of times as well. Infantry HQ units conduct actions like other infantry units and count towards stacking limits. Okay, we've got that. Each infantry HQ unit has the following HQ capabilities. 1. An infantry battalion HQ unit is always in command of itself. Remember, command doesn't matter until turn 5, but however, this is what it can do. And 2. An undestructed infantry battalion HQ provides command to any infantry unit belonging to its battalion and one other rifle infantry company from the same regiment, if those units are within 3 hexes of the HQ. And I think that part there is like, I don't know, maybe there was a requirement for them to do that, but it just sounds like that confuses things a little bit, adding another rifle infantry company. So like Martin's also pointed out, you can't attack with 2 different battalions, so anyway, it's able to command them if they're within 3 hexes. This is talking about command, it's not talking about free moves. And it doesn't mention free moves there at all, I don't believe. So, but could you take from that the fact that if it's stacked with one other rifle company from the same regiment, you know, can it maybe give free moves to the regiment? But outside of that, maybe not. Don't know. I think, in fact, I'm going to go and pop that question out there now while it's in my mind, because I meant to do it before. So give me a sec. Actually, I won't for now, because my wee dog's here and she's snoozing at the moment. So if I get up and move, I know what's going to happen. So I'll sit tight now until she stirs. Hopefully I'll remember then. So moving on, better say, yeah, we're not sure about that, but at the moment these are all stacked with their own battalion infantry units anyway. So, and then units exiting reserve that are not in command must execute a free movement action. I've no idea what that is, meaning units exiting reserve. So yeah, we'll come across that at some point soon. Maybe not soon, maybe it's later on in the game. I don't know what it means. I don't think it's relevant to just now, but by all means jump in and tell me if I'm missing something. 7. Infantry units in a landing beach hex. Now, every one of our units, I mean, not everyone's an infantry unit, but every one of our infantry units are in a landing beach hex, right? These units may only conduct a 1 hex preservation move if they do not qualify for any other free action. So, although these guys are in a landing beach hex, they could carry out a preservation move. However, they're getting a free move from being stacked with their battalion HQ anyway. So we'd rather have any sort of action rather than a preservation move. Although it looks to me like all they can really do is make a move, but I'm not so sure. I don't know if if me moving from there to there counts as movement under fire or not. I'm going to have to look at that obviously quite soon. But the movement under fire rules are pretty heavy going. Probably something I need to sit down and study a bit more. There's a couple of sort of diagram. Hang on, phone. Okay, sorry, got interrupted there with a phone call, so I'm not sure where I was at. Well, I remember reading Free Action 7, which was preservation moves. Yeah, and I talked about the fact that, although these do have the option of preservation moves, they've got a free move as well, so they could do something else. Yeah, and I was talking about the movement under fire. Okay, we'll get back to that. Last one is starting with game turn 5, which, well, we're not sure we're going to go there even. If units are within command range of either its battalion or regimental HQ CP, CP's command post. So, let me read that again. Starting with game turn 5, if units are within command range of either its battalion or regimental HQ. Oh, okay. So they will still get, when it talks, yeah, because that talks battalion HQ there. So when I just read these parts for 10, right, I'm starting to put these pieces together, that's good. When I was reading 10.3 there, I spoke about, this is command, remember, this isn't free actions, but that tells you that it's the same. It says an undisrupted infantry battalion HQ provides command to any infantry unit belonging to its battalion and one other rifle infantry company from the same regiment, if those units are within 3 hexes of the HQ. So if it commands it within 3 hexes, it says there that if units are within the command range of the battalion HQ, they will get a free move. So good, okay. Well, that's quite good actually, because I kind of thought that they might needed to be stacked together with the battalion ones. I thought that was only for the regimental HQ, but no, it says battalion HQ there. So okay, good stuff. Right, okay. What are we going to do? Okay, I'm going to start up here and work my way down. Seems like the way to do it. Oh god, we're coming up for 50 minutes then. I can't really cut things there though, because I've not done anything, can I? It just means this could end up being a 2-hour part. That's what worries me, whereas I could cut things just now before we start this and just being a sort of discussion part though, isn't it? Well, I've done that before in some of my previous videos, and you know what? I think I will just pause there I'm hopefully going to carry on and do it, but it'll mean it'll be a separate part that'll be uploading. But I can put a comment in the header saying that this was mainly just a discussion about some of the questions that have come up, and also a discussion about how you go about the US action phase, how you're thinking about it before it actually commences. Well, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make a pause, and I'm just going to press record again, but just to split the video, okay? So, we'll see if it turns into part. What is this? This is part 4. So this might be the end of part 4. Okay. Hi. Cheers.